The Andrey Khusid Playbook. Chapter 1. Intro. Every legendary startup begins by solving a problem that feels almost invisible until someone re-engineers it from the ground up. In 2011, Andrey Khusid, a Moscow-based designer and entrepreneur, realized that remote teams, agencies, and even in-person creative groups were crippled by one core inefficiency: capturing and sharing ideas visually across space and time. Traditional whiteboards were static, physical, and non-collaborative. Existing digital tools were clunky and linear, failing to replicate the tactile, iterative feel that fueled great brainstorming. Khusid knew from running his own agency, Vitamin Group, that as teams became more global, the need for a shared, frictionless visual canvas was only going to grow. He saw firsthand how projects stalled, creativity was throttled, and miscommunication cost companies millions. This was not just a design problem, it was a systems problem at the very heart of how teams innovate. Armed with this insight, Khusid set out to build a tool that would become the connective tissue for creative collaboration in the modern era, even as he faced an uphill battle from Moscow, far outside the Silicon Valley mainstream. Chapter 2. The First Gamble. Building the first version of what would become Miro was an exercise in radical risk-taking and relentless user empathy. Khusid, along with his co-founder Oleg Shardin, invested their own savings and recruited a handful of engineers from their agency network. They released their earliest prototype, called Real-Time Board, as a side project, hoping to see if even a small group of distributed designers and developers would adopt it. Unlike other SaaS products of the era, the focus was on speed, infinite canvas, and a dead simple interface. Khusid made a deliberate choice to prioritize usability over feature bloat, believing that adoption would only happen if the tool felt invisible. No manual required, no friction, just pure ideation. Their first users were a mix of Russian tech agencies, European freelancers, and a handful of international startups who discovered Real-Time Board through product forums and word of mouth. Every feature decision came directly from user pain. The team obsessively collected feedback, observed usage patterns, and re-engineered the product for faster interaction. At a time when raising US venture capital from Russia was nearly impossible, Khusid's biggest gamble was betting on organic, product-led growth, even if it meant bootstrapping for years. Chapter 3. Turning Point. Miro's inflection point emerged not from a single viral moment, but from the relentless accumulation of wins with early adopters. By 2015, the team had quietly built a base of thousands of active teams, many of them distributed across Europe and the US. This cohort evangelized the tool within their own companies, turning Miro into a hidden backbone of product design sprints, remote workshops, and agile development. Khusid realized that the platform's power was not just in its features, but in how it allowed entire organizations to align, brainstorm, and execute visually in real time. This insight led to a complete overhaul of onboarding and user education, streamlining the first board experience and doubling down on integrations with Slack, Google Drive, and Jira. As the user base scaled, so did revenue, which crossed $1 million ARR by 2016, all with a lean, mostly remote team. The challenges were immense. Server costs spiked, competitors noticed the trend, and US investors remained skeptical of a Russian-rooted SaaS upstart. But the data told a different story. Usage retention, viral invites, and paid conversion all trended up. The real turning point was psychological. Khusid and his team embraced the role of global disruptor, not just local player, and committed to scaling Miro as the visual standard for remote work. Chapter 4. Early Growth and Hustle. Miro's early growth was defined by grassroots evangelism and the relentless hustle of a distributed, international team. Khusid personally onboarded large accounts, ran user webinars at all hours, and fielded direct feedback from both power users and skeptics. The company invested in localizing the product, rolling out support in multiple languages, long before most SaaS companies thought globally. The platform's viral mechanics became self-reinforcing. Every time a user invited a collaborator to a board, it was a new lead and a potential paid account. Instead of hiring a massive sales force, Miro doubled down on self-serve growth and product-led onboarding, leveraging community-driven education, template libraries, and use case storytelling. The engineering team focused on speed and scalability, ensuring that the product could handle increasingly large boards with hundreds of simultaneous users. By 2018, Miro had crossed 5 million in ARR, secured major global logos like Netflix and Twitter, and proved that a non-US SaaS could win enterprise customers. The company ran lean but punched above its weight, leveraging remote hiring to bring in top talent from across the world. Chapter 5. Defining Crisis. The journey was not without existential threats. In late 2018, a major outage during a high-profile client workshop exposed scalability and security weaknesses. As social media buzzed, Khusid responded by opening a public post-mortem and inviting customers into the company's recovery roadmap. This moment of radical transparency not only won back user trust, but set a new bar for SaaS crisis management. Around the same time, giants like Microsoft and Google launched competing digital whiteboard products bundled into their enterprise suites, sparking fears that Miro would be out-resourced or commoditized. Instead of chasing feature parity, Khusid leaned even harder into user-centric innovation. The team shipped advanced real-time collaboration features, deep integrations, and security certifications like SOC 2 to appeal to large enterprises. Miro's product velocity and authenticity helped it survive not only the crisis, but to build an even stronger relationship with its growing customer base. Chapter 6. The Flywheel and Scaling Up. Miro's flywheel was engineered for exponential, not just linear growth. Every new board created by a team led to new invites, which brought in new teams and expanded the product's viral surface. As usage spread, the company invested in building an ecosystem of templates, APIs, and integrations, turning Miro from a tool into a platform. The network effect was amplified by community-driven content. Users shared best practices, templates, and even custom plugins in what would become the Miroverse. Major clients like Salesforce and Spotify didn't just use Miro. They embedded it into their core workflows, fueling organic expansion across thousands of employees. By the start of 2020, Miro had surpassed 50 million ARR, with paid seats in over 180 countries. The COVID-19 pandemic supercharged adoption. As remote work became the new normal and visual collaboration went from nice to have to mission critical. Khusid's refusal to chase short-term monetization in favor of product love paid off. The user base exploded, and enterprise deals followed as teams realized they couldn't run strategy sessions or product launches without Miro's digital canvas. Chapter 7. Brand, Community, and Culture. Miro's brand emerged as a champion of creativity, inclusivity, and remote-first collaboration. Khusid invested early in building a global community team, sponsoring virtual hackathons, and launching the Miroverse, a marketplace for user-generated templates and workflows. The brand's voice was always approachable, supportive, and relentlessly user-first, drawing inspiration from education, design thinking, and agile methodology. Internally, the company cultivated a culture of distributed ownership and radical candor, encouraging every employee to challenge assumptions and bring user stories to the forefront of decision-making. Diversity was not just a checkbox, but a core strength, with a team spread across more than a dozen countries and a leadership focus on hiring beyond traditional tech hubs. The result was a product that felt local everywhere, able to respond to regional needs while scaling a unified global vision. Miro's annual distributed team events and open product roadmaps kept engagement high and the brand authentic in a world of corporate SaaS blandness. Chapter 8. Investor Moves and Financials. Unlike many unicorns, Miro delayed major fundraising until product-market fit was bulletproof. The company's capital-efficient DNA allowed it to bootstrap and reinvest revenue for years before accepting outside capital. In 2020, as the pandemic turbocharged remote work, Miro raised a $50 million Series B from Iconic and Accel, providing fuel for engineering, go-to-market expansion, and global hiring. Just 2 years later, Miro closed a $400 million Series C at a $17 billion valuation, one of the most explosive SaaS jumps on record. Investors were drawn by the company's retention metrics, international revenue, and viral growth curve. The board included top-tier funds like Scale Venture Partners and Salesforce Ventures, each eager to capture a share of Miro's sticky, high-margin platform revenue. Khusid, however, maintained founder control and a ruthless focus on capital allocation, only scaling spend where it directly compounded user value and product adoption. Chapter 9. Surviving the Storm. Miro's journey has been shaped by resilience in the face of both macro and micro storms. Geopolitical risks, especially during the Russia-Ukraine conflict, threatened to disrupt operations and talent pipelines. The company responded by rapidly expanding infrastructure in Western Europe and the US, supporting remote-first employment and insulating customer data from regional risk. In 2022, a massive scaling bottleneck during global virtual conferences led to multiple platform outages. Khusid's response was swift and transparent, communicating openly with customers and investing millions in back-end cloud engineering, redundancy, and uptime guarantees. Internally, leadership leaned on a philosophy of default to action. empowering teams to fix issues fast, learn from every incident, and document improvements for the global team. These storms didn't just test Miro's systems, they strengthened the organizational muscle and trust required to serve enterprise customers at scale. Chapter 10. The IPO or exit A's of 2024. Miro remains a private powerhouse, but the company is routinely discussed as one of the top SaaS IPO candidates globally. Khusid's philosophy is to focus on enduring product, culture, and customer love, not just optics or investor timelines. Analysts speculate that Miro could debut on the public markets at a multi-billion-dollar valuation, or potentially attract acquisition interest from major cloud players like Microsoft or Salesforce. Khusid, however, is clear that liquidity is not the finish line. The mission is to build the global OS for visual collaboration. Internally, employees are incentivized with equity and a clear stake in long-term success, fostering a sense of ownership beyond the prospect of exit. The board remains committed to founder-led, mission-driven growth. Chapter 11. Founder Psychology and Playbook. Andrey Khusid's psychology is defined by customer obsession, systems thinking, and global ambition. He spends time each week reading user forums, joining onboarding calls, and analyzing product friction points. Khusid's decision frameworks prioritize long-term engagement over short-term wins, focusing on compounding value for both end users and enterprise clients. He encourages a culture of openness, expecting every new hire to ship product improvements in their first 30 days. For Khusid, friction is not an annoyance to be smoothed over, but an opportunity to build viral loops and defensible moats. He advocates for building with a global-by-design mentality, insisting that features, support, and documentation must serve the world, not just the US or Western Europe. Mentorship, peer learning, and distributed leadership are hallmarks of his management style, shaping Miro's resilience and adaptiveness. Chapter 12. The Industry Impact. Miro is now the de facto visual collaboration layer for remote and hybrid work, used by over 99% of the Fortune 100. The company has transformed digital brainstorming from an afterthought into a strategic advantage, reshaping how product launches, innovation sprints, and distributed teamwork happen. Miro's impact goes far beyond product teams. Consultants, educators, healthcare professionals, and government agencies now use the platform to map strategy, align goals, and accelerate execution. The emergence of the Miro board as a core project artifact has forced the rest of the SaaS industry to rethink integration, user experience, and the role of creativity in digital workflows. Competitors have had to evolve, launching integrations, opening APIs, and improving performance just to keep up with Miro's pace. The company's influence on modern work culture is lasting and profound, with millions relying on its digital canvas daily. Chapter 13. Wealth, Impact, and Giving Back. Andrey Khusid and the early Miro team have leveraged their success to foster a broader impact on the global startup and creative ecosystem. Khusid invests heavily in mentorship programs for Russian and Eastern European founders, funds digital education initiatives, and supports open-source projects. The company's open template library and community-driven events democratize access to best practices, allowing teams worldwide to accelerate innovation regardless of location or budget. Miro's philanthropic partnerships focus on digital inclusion and creative empowerment, aiming to give future generations the same tools and opportunities that fueled its own rise. The culture of giving back is embedded within the company, with employees encouraged to contribute to community causes and knowledge-sharing networks. Chapter 14. 2024 and Beyond. Miro's vision for the future is nothing less than to become the operating system for visual collaboration globally. The company is investing heavily in AI-powered brainstorming tools, workflow automation, and deeper integrations with every major productivity suite on the market. Expansion into new verticals, education, consulting, healthcare, reflects a belief that every knowledge worker should be empowered to create visually, not just designers or product managers. Khusid is outspoken about the need to lead the transition from meeting-centric to asynchronous, visual-first work, positioning Miro as the core hub for distributed teams everywhere. Strategic bets include regional data hosting, next-gen mobile experiences, and partnerships with leading universities to embed Miro in curricula worldwide. The leadership's willingness to reinvent the product, culture, and growth playbook each year is proof that complacency is the enemy, and that the best SaaS empires are built on relentless reinvention. Chapter 15. Startup Wealth Files Closing. Miro's journey is a masterclass in systematizing innovation, scaling culture, and building defensible digital moats in a hyper-competitive SaaS landscape. Andrey Khusid's path from a Moscow design agency to a $17 billion global unicorn proves that you don't need Silicon Valley roots to architect world-changing software, just the willingness to bet on user pain, play the long game, and compound community trust over time. If you want to build wealth in the new digital economy, study what Miro did. Solve for the biggest friction, obsess over user experience, and let virality and culture do the rest. Subscribe for more Startup Wealth Files playbooks, and keep building systems that scale.